down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid-lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I am running a bit behind in case you guys didn't notice. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so there's just so much in the news today that and over the last couple of days that I've just not been able to figure out what to necessarily talk about because there's just so much stuff going on. There's a big plethora of information. So hopefully I've got a couple two things in particular that I'm looking at, and so I am hoping that I'll be able to give both of them complete justice, because if I don't, well, then you guys will pack up and leave. Because that's what I do. I give you guys the best information that I can find and the best commentary that I can give on all of these wonderful topics that are out here. And, of course, I do it all drinking some wonderful amber liquid. And speaking about that, tonight I am drinking Jameson's Black Barrel in my glass. And of course, the glass tonight is the fantastic True Grit Roots Network Rocks Tumbler, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I've got my stones in there at the bottom. You can kind of see them down there. They're the 3 black stones. So just some good stuff. Yes, Bonnie, I know. Nasty. I get it. I got to give some shout outs to some people who are here who haven't been here in a little while, like Barnacle32 over on Rumble. For sure. And let's see who else. There was somebody else that popped in. Oh shoot. Okay, well, I can't back up for some reason. So anyway, let me see. Wait a minute. Maybe I can do it here. Oh yeah, Mark Romanez is here as well. So Barnacle, of course, is coming to us from I believe it's Hawaii, if I remember correctly. But anyway, welcome to all of the standard, of course, Whiskey Warrior P1s, and we also have the usual miscreants in that is Coco Deminky Picaric, who has a fantastic Pet of the Week submission for this week, and then of course we have 3 Chevy. Buddy Weiser, always Buddy Weiser. Buddy always shows up. We have Mark over on Facebook. We have Mama 5 Kitties. We've got, of course, I've already called out Bonnie as well. Bam has popped in. She just came in. So, all right. So anyway, thank you all for joining, and anyone who is brand new to the show, who has come here from like Sean Parnell's show or possibly Wendy Bell Radio, I do appreciate it if you come on by. Do me a favor, and if you like the broadcast and like the show, go ahead and follow me on Rumble, of course. Because that's just the way that we are. We conservatives, we all have to, especially in today's day and age, we all have to congeal together and get together and create this wonderful parallel economy, because the left, of course, is out to destroy us. For tonight's sponsor, I've been telling you, of course, about True Grit Roots Network because I'm part owner, full disclosure. But the thing about it is we have a world premiere listening party that is kicking off on Monday, December 11th. if you recall, I've been telling you about some of our shows. Well, one of our shows in particular, Music on the Couch, done by Vinnie Marini, is a live broadcast. It is one of our live, right now anyway, it is the only actual live broadcast. And he has a world premiere listening party going on Monday, December 11th at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time with Kevin Burt. And apparently Kevin is going to talk about each song while Vinny plays the entire album for that time period. So this is a world premiere listening party live with Kevin Burt. Join in on the fun Monday, December 11th. That's this Monday, December 11th at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. And check out Kevin Burt and his brand new album where he's going to talk about each song. Well, I don't know if it's brand new. He's going to talk about each song while they play the entire album. It is a fantastic show. You get interesting perspectives and introspectives from the artist, and in this case, the artist is Kevin Burt. So once again, check us out, TGRN, True Grit Roots Network. You can check us out at tgrn.net. That world premiere listening party with Kevin Burt is live Monday, December 11th at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, and it is only on True Grit Roots Network, TGRN Blues, of course, out of Austin, Texas. And once again, I am part owner in that little organization. So that is just fantastic. Vinny does an absolute awesome job for his broadcasts and his shows. He's been doing it a while. A lot longer than I have. He's got something like 600 or 700 episodes under his belt. But anyway, so go and check that out for me. I would appreciate it. And, of course, for your blues listening pleasure. All right. So the Hunter Biden investigation has really heated up. And by that, I mean they actually were getting they put out Hunter Biden, they put out a subpoena to have him come and testify in the essentially for a deposition. And if you recall, last episode I did mention that his lawyer, Hunter Biden's lawyer, said, no, we're not going to do a closed door session. We're going to do it in public. Well, Comer, of course, responded back and said, hey, no, we're not doing any special treatment or anything along those lines. You're going to come in for the deposition, and then, of course, we'll do a public conversation or a public deposition or testifying, whatever it is that they call it. Later, we'll do that later. So this early December meeting was going to be a closed door deposition. Well, Hunter has since changed his mind. And let me, like I said, I was running a little bit behind, so give me just a second. So here, this just came out right before I came on the air. Hunter Biden refuses to appear for the deposition, and now Comer and Jordan are threatening to hold him in contempt. So he's been, Hunter's been hinting that he won't show for his December 13th closed-door deposition, despite being under a subpoena. But now Hunter Biden has confirmed, through his lawyer, of course, that he will not appear for the deposition. His attorney, Abby Lowell, said on Wednesday she sent a letter to Comer saying that Hunter Biden will only appear for testimony in a public hearing setting. Lowell wrote, Mr. Biden has offered to appear at a hearing on December 13th, 2023, the date you have reserved, or another date this month, to answer any questions pertinent and relevant to the subject matter. He is making this choice because the committee has demonstrated time and time again it uses closed-door sessions to manipulate, even distort, the facts and misinform the American public. A hearing that would ensure, a public hearing would ensure transparency and truth in these proceedings. We look forward to working out the schedule. So, apparently they think that they can skate on this because, of course, he thinks he's special. He thinks he's special. And, James Comer and Jim Jordan aren't having it. James Comer posted on X today that if Hunter Biden does not appear for the deposition, the GOP oversight and House and Judiciary GOP will initiate contempt of Congress proceedings. The president's son doesn't get to dictate the terms of a lawful subpoena. So, they responded with a letter of their own, and it was very short and sweet and to the point here. It's basically saying on November 8th, 2023, we issued subpoenas to your client, Hunter Biden, for a deposition on December 13th. We received your letters dated November 28th and December 6th concerning the deposition subpoenas. Contrary to the assertions in your letter, there is no choice for Biden to make. The subpoenas compel him to appear for a deposition on December 13th. If Mr. Biden does not appear for his deposition on December 13th, the committees will initiate contempt of Congress proceedings. All right. So here's the thing. I'm guessing that the council is going to try and drag this out, and that doesn't really surprise me, especially considering the fact that we've had some serious additional information that has come out by James Comer. James Comer put out a video on December 4th, which 2 days ago, which is allegating, thank you, that's what I needed, allegating that a recurring $1,380 payment from Hunter's firm starting in 2018 went to Joe Biden. Now, when this came out, all of the leftists that were out on X in particular, and of course I focus on X because X is the cesspool of lefty lunatics. They all claimed they were going to run as soon as Elon took over, but apparently that didn't happen. So anyway, they all are like, well, this is a payment for a truck that he bought. And so this is, congratulations to Jim Comer. Yay. He uncovered a truck payment. Well, here's the problem. And the one thing that, of course, they don't ever say in their posts. It doesn't matter where the money went. It doesn't matter what the money was used for. What does matter is where the money came from and who paid the money. That's what this is all about. And also to kind of keep in mind that this is to establish a pattern of money coming from foreign entities crossing through Hunter Biden and going to Joe Biden. Now, there's no information that indicates any kind of a loan per se from Joe Biden to his son. There's no indication of loans going from Joe Biden to his brother, Jim. There are indications, though, that massive amounts of money have come into the family through 20 plus, I'm going to say, because all we know about is roughly 20 shell corporations that are that were set up to kind of hide some of this income. Because now here's the thing is that, again, they took money from foreign entities into these conglomerate businesses that are the first part of the chain is going. The first part of the chain is essentially a conglomeration between like a China company and Hunter Biden, creating this LLC or whatever. And they do have, I will admit they do have a photo of Hunter and Joe and some other guy in front of a vehicle. But it's never clear. It's not clear as to when the picture was taken. It doesn't, it isn't clear to basically say this is the VIN number, this is the loan, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, again, this is kind of like, this is all questionable. And I keep pointing out multiple times, I don't care what the money went to. We know the money went to rental payments, loan payments. Some money went to some other car that Hunter purchased. It was the exact amounts of the car's purchase price versus the money that was coming in from the Chinese corporation, the CEFC corporation. And so it doesn't matter. None of it matters as to where the money went after it came into the Biden's possession. What does matter is where it came from, and even more importantly, what they did to earn it, if it was even earned at all. Because again, keep in mind, there aren't any business records from these organizations that basically display or there's like, at this point, there's no receipts, there's no invoices, there's no bills paid, there's none of this. And everything seems to be disguised, let's say, as a loaning from a company to an individual, loaning from, a company to another company, loaning from a company to an individual to an individual. All of these things are disguised as loans, and there's nothing to prove at this point what services, what functions, what products that these people created for these. Now, there was another story that came out also with that. Let me see. I got to find it first here. Okay. So there's another story that came out also that I saw, and this from Just the News. IRS whistleblower confirms Hunter Biden received nearly $5 million from donor, a Democrat donor, by the way, for personal expenses. Joseph Ziegler, who is one of the IRS whistleblowers, the other one is Robert Shapley, and Joseph Ziegler shared an example of how Hunter Biden's foreign business activity with Burisma could potentially be linked to his father. So he was testifying in front of the House Ways and Means Committee in closed-door testimony this past Tuesday that Hunter Biden received almost $5 million in loans from a donor for personal expenses. And Hunter appeared to follow a pattern of attempting to avoid paying taxes on what he called relevant income. This first started with Hunter not reporting the Burisma income in 2014 and allegedly falsely claiming that it was a loan to him. He again tried to claim the millions in income earned from Hudson West 3, which was one of his companies. That was a loan to him, which was refuted by the evidence and was not allowed by his tax accountants. This continued into 2020, 2021, and 2022, in which Hunter received approximately $4.9 million in payments for personal expenses, again in the form of a loan and a gift from Democrat donor Kevin Patrick Morris. Ziegler also noted that Morris paid Hunter's delinquent taxes. So Kevin Patrick Morris paid part or all of Hunter Biden's delinquent taxes. His interview, by the way, confirms reporting by Just the News that was done last month, showing that Kevin Morris and Hunter Biden engaged in a series of loans totaling $5.3 million since Joe Biden began running for president. Now, I'm just going to throw this out here. I mean, I don't know of any rich friends. I don't ask any rich friends for loans. I definitely don't ask if I were to be running for president or any other office. I wouldn't be asking my donors to finance my son. That would be a little crazy. And so again, we're starting to peel back the onion even more. And one of the things that, of course, is a byproduct of this, and I gotta switch screens here. But one of the things that is a byproduct of this, of course, is Joe Biden is now starting to get asked the tough questions. You know, we've been worried. What am I saying? We know that the mainstream media has been covering for Joe Biden and covering for these, this information and stuff like that. Well, this in red state, Joe Biden freaks out when asked about payments he received from Hunter Biden, and he went and shut down the presser. Now, this was either yesterday, I think it was yesterday or earlier today, one or the other, but he spoke in front of the press for the first time since the revelation that he received direct payments from one of his son's shady businesses. That news broke in the face of the president's repeated denials over the years, claiming that he had zero connections to Hunter Biden's dealings. When faced with the glaring contradiction, Joe freaked out, doubled down, said it was lies, 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 and stormed out of the press conference. Basically ran away. Now, keep in mind, of course, that we have emails, we have texts, we have photos, we have bank records and sworn witness testimony from Hunter Biden's partners that show that he was fully involved with his business, with Hunter Biden's business dealings. So again, this is ridiculous. I really am getting a little, I'll admit it, I'm getting a little perturbed over the fact that these leftists are sitting here and they are completely denying the fact that we've got him. We've got Joe. He is an unregistered foreign agent in violation of the Foreign Agent Registration Act, FARA. His son is also in violation along with the partners. They all are involved and they all know where this money came from. They've got it for something, they got it for something which we still have yet to understand. Now, I personally think that there might be a reason why there was some classified documents found in unsecure locations in various spots that Biden all of a sudden said, oh, yeah, we should probably get rid of those. Well, it probably wasn't Biden because he doesn't freaking remember anything anyway. But the key here is that, again, leftists, if you're watching this program, you guys are shoving your head in the sand and you are totally denying specifically what is going on in the White House. Okay. Totally and specifically denying what's going on in the White House with these people. All right. So it's not just me and a few other people that are getting a little upset over this. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of the fact that there was Christopher Wray went and jumped onto the bandwagon up on Capitol Hill, and he got essentially railroaded by a couple of different people. Kennedy, Senator Kennedy for one, and Senator Ted Cruz the other. But it's his answer. It's Christopher Wray's answers that you need to really, really closely pay attention to. Okay? Because it's not what they say. It's what they don't say. That is where the truth lies. And so, first of all, Ted Cruz, I'm just gonna pull this up. So Ted Cruz torched Wray, according to Red State headline here, and he does. I promise you, I saw the clip. He torches Wray over the FBI handling of the investigation into the Biden corruption. And here's the thing is it's not so much. So Christopher Wray is utilizing the appointment of Weiss as special counsel as the shield with which he is trying to avoid answering questions because of the fact, and hear me out on this. This is something I really have been kind of thinking about. Weiss was friends with Bo, and knows the family. And now all of a sudden, when things really start to heat up, Garland initially refused David Weiss special counsel status. And now that all of a sudden the pot's really starting to boil and the frog's about to get boiled in it, he goes ahead and gives Weiss special counsel status. The reason being, I think I mentioned it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I mentioned it on this program that the reason why they're doing it is so they can claim an ongoing investigation and not answer any questions, because that's how these people work. And so now that David Weiss has special counsel status, Ted Cruz is asking the question, okay, well, Christopher Wray, you guys had the text. You had, in particular, he's discussing the text where Hunter Biden says to his Chinese counterpart that his dad is sitting right next to him and that they are completely upset over not getting whatever payment is out there. And so Ted Cruz is essentially saying, well, you knew about this. You had the text. Why didn't you pull the GPS data from the phones in order to see if Hunter was literally sitting next to Joe, or if at least if Joe was even close to Hunter at the time? And of course, Ray immediately says, I can't comment. That is an ongoing investigation, which of course is, Politico speak for I'm not answering the question because I don't want to answer the question. And Ted Cruz basically says, well, there wasn't an ongoing investigation back when the text was originally turned over to the FBI with the Hunter Biden laptop. So why is it that now you're saying it's part of an ongoing investigation, but back then you were investigating something, you never bothered to pull the GPS data at the time back then? And so he's got Ray. He really does have Ray over a barrel with this, because this is something that the FBI honestly should have known about a long time ago, because the laptop was turned over in 2019. And the laptop is where that text message, that record of that text message showed up. And so there's no reason why Christopher Wray couldn't have, gone ahead and, just double check GPS investigation, a GPS thing or whatever. I mean, this is an absolute abject failure at the least, a full-on cover-up at the worst, by the FBI in order to, going on this. Now, also, Shapley apparently testified to the House that the natural step he wanted to follow was an investigation to determine if Joe Biden was actually sitting next to Hunter when he used him to make the threat. But according to Cruz, the DOJ blocked Shapley from getting the GPS data. So there's another nuance that is going on. So anyway, yeah. I've got a little bit more on this in just one moment. But first, I want to tell you that, hey, Christmas is coming up, and you may have somebody who likes hoodies, or who likes T-shirts, or who likes mugs, coffee mugs and glasses and things like that. Well, one of the best things you can do is you can purchase them with my logo and my motto at the Whiskey Musings online store. Go to store.whiskeymusings.online to check out the great selection of products that I have, not only with the Whiskey Musings logo, but also with my motto, when I drink, I think, in both white and black lettering. And by the way, that white and black font is known as Armalite font. Little bit of a nuance that I threw in there just for patriots like yourselves. So go to store.whiskeymusings.online, and I'm going to tell you right now, I am running a promotion. I am giving you 15% off your entire order if in the checkout, when you check out, you type in the promo code, all capital letters, Christmas. Type in promo code Christmas, all capital letters, at checkout to receive 15% off your entire order. That is my Christmas gift to you for going and checking out and purchasing some fantastic products. You should just go and check it out, store.whiskeymusings.online. And if you decide to purchase, remember to put in promo code Christmas, all capital letters, at checkout to get 15% off your order. I'm running that all the way up until Christmas Day, so you can get a hold of gifts. Even if you're not given something that you want for Christmas, you can console yourself by getting a Whiskey Musings logo or motto gear. Check it out, store.whiskeymusings.online. Promo code, all capital letters, Christmas for 15% off at checkout. And I do thank you for supporting the show in that process. All right. So one other thing that has been just the bane of the Biden's existence when it comes to this investigation is the consistent caterwauling, I'm going to say, the consistent caterwauling that goes on with the whole idea that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden are physically separate people. That Joe Biden is not, Hunter Biden is not a political person, and therefore, being a private citizen, has done literally nothing wrong as far as the left is concerned. Well, I love it when I bring receipts. This in Just the News, Joe and Hunter Biden's commingling of finances shows absolutely no absolute wall, I should say, of separation. Money from a Chinese company flowed freely into Joe Biden's personal accounts from both his brother and his son, indicating that there was very little separation between Hunter Biden's businesses and the family bank accounts. So, I mean, again, these are the bank records, and keep in mind, folks, that I'm telling you right here and right now that the problem is not so much what was purchased. The issue is not so much what was purchased. The issue is what they did to earn this money and where the money was coming from. Okay. Now, I even got into a bit of an argument for somebody about, it's 2018, 2018 was when he wasn't in office anymore, and the big guy was in office. The big guy, meaning not the big guy. Sorry, the colloquial orange turnip or orange man or orange man bad, whatever they want to call Trump in this case, talking about how the money was going into 2018. Well, have you ever thought that maybe they deferred the payments until after the guy was out of office, so that just for this purpose, to make sure that they didn't get supposedly caught doing this stuff, that maybe some of the policies that the VP at the time was performing and doing, that's when he got paid after he left office? I mean, seriously, I just can't, I can't even imagine some of the mental gymnastics that these leftists throw out there with all of this nonsense to try and get this stuff taken over, or kept from the limelight. Now, another key point that these guys go on and on and on about is the fact that I mean these idiotic leftists, they keep talking about how the Hunter Biden laptop was modified by Rudy Giuliani, that Rudy Giuliani, had a copy and did something with it, and it was before the FBI took it over, so on and so forth. Well, a couple of problems with that. As far as the exact dates, I get it. There could have been an overlap between when Rudy got a hold of it and when the FBI got a hold of it. But Christopher Wray, in his testimony, stated clearly to Kennedy that they have to be very careful in terms of what they can say, especially in the middle of an election season. So what Christopher Wray is basically saying is that the FBI couldn't admit that the Hunter Biden laptop was real, because if they did, it would have affected the 2020 election. Well, believe me, it's real. We know it's real. Whoops, wrong. Sorry. So Senator John Kennedy grilled FBI Director Wray in the Senate on Tuesday, demanding to know why the agency just didn't come out and say that Hunter Biden's laptop was real when it was reported in the New York Post in October of 2020. The FBI had known about the existence of the laptop for nearly a year before the contents were made public. Now, if you recall, I talked about the Hunter Biden laptop and when the FBI actually confirmed that it was, a legit laptop and that it had forensic analysis done. That was in November of 2019. They had forensic analysis done, and they said that the data on it was not manipulated in any way. Okay. Well, the left, of course, keeps talking about it. And Kennedy basically asked, why didn't the FBI just say, hey, the laptop's real? Why didn't you just tell everybody the laptop's for real? We're not vouching for what's on it, but it's real. This isn't fiction, Kennedy asked Wray. And so and this was after, of course, this is way after or even before, honestly, those 51 intelligence people came out and lied about the fact that, this is looking like Russian disinformation. This isn't, all the FBI would have had to do was say, I'm sorry, but the laptop is real. We do have it in our possession. We cannot attest to what's on it. We cannot talk about it anything further other than that because of an ongoing investigation. Anyway, so I also want to point out, too, that it's not just the FBI. It's not just the FBI that has actually done it. I dug into the archives. Here is CBS News back in 2022, November, when they finally freaking admitted it. Okay. A copy of what is believed to be Hunter Biden's laptop data turned over by the repair shop to the FBI showed no tampering, analysis says. And here, this is right here, data from a laptop that the lawyer for a Delaware computer repair shop owner says was left by Hunter Biden in 2019, and which the shop owner later provided to the FBI under subpoena, shows no evidence of tampering or fabrication, according to an independent review commissioned by none other than CBS News. Brian Della Rocca, the lawyer for the shop owner, provided to CBS News what he called an exact copy of the laptop data provided to federal investigators nearly 3 years ago. Della Rocca said he considers it clean because it predates versions that were widely circulated by Republican operatives to attack then-candidate Joe Biden before the 2020 presidential election. The independent analysis by two cyber investigators from Minneapolis-based Computer Forensic Services found no evidence that the user data had been modified, fabricated, or tampered with, nor did it find any new files originating after April 2019, when store records indicate that Biden dropped it off for repair. Yeah. So, this digital forensic analysis was undertaken because laptop data as well as bank records are at the center of the looming Republican-led House investigation into the Biden family businesses. Now, I also want to point out, too, which this is another thing that the leftists hate. the leftists hate about this, which is literally if Hunter Biden's laptop was false and the information on it was false, why would Hunter be suing the shop owner? Why would Hunter be saying that I concur that this is my data and that I'm suing the shop owner for handing it over illegally to somebody else? Why? Why would he be saying that if it weren't for the fact that it was his laptop? I'm sorry. I just, anyone with any kind of brains would realize that that just by itself is an admission of guilt, or an admission of ownership, I should say, of the laptop. That he's guilty as charged, that it's his laptop, that the information that's been circulating throughout the press and the media is actually his. So, anyway, all right. Oh, you guys are asking for the store website. All right, here it is, store.whiskeymusings.online. I see some folks over in Rumble asking about, like, what's the best t-shirt? There's a couple different versions of the t-shirt there. I think if you go with, like, the premium tee, that one's usually pretty good. I know it's a little bit more expensive than the others, maybe. But yeah, the store website is store.whiskeymusings.online. And again, don't forget to put in your promo code Christmas, all capital letters. It'll tell you when you get there. But Christmas, all capital letters, get 15% off your entire order. And you can get t-shirts with my logo. You can get t-shirts with my saying. You can get different colors. And it's great. It's just, it's good stuff. Good stuff. So anyway, in fact, I got one right here. A t-shirt right here. But anyway, so there you go. Store.whiskeymusings.online. That's where you go. Okay. All right. So, barring all of that stuff about the laptop and the, the obvious foreign agency by the Biden family, and of course the entire, investigation into that entire thing as to whether or not Joe Biden may have performed or favors for foreign entities on behalf of himself against the U.S. government. Let's go beyond all of that. We have another huge debacle that's happening right here, right now, and that is the farce that is called Bidenomics. Okay. I would have to say that as far as like bringing people, as far as making people understand what a garbage president this guy is, they don't even have to necessarily believe anything about the laptop. They don't have to necessarily believe anything about the communications between Hunter Biden and the Burisma thing and the fact that he was on video basically saying that he's doing a quid pro quo, trying to hold $1 billion from a foreign entity that was promised by Congress, by the way, by Congress to do this, to send the money, and that kind of thing. Forget all of that stuff. I mean, forget the fact that he was caught lying about his background by the mainstream media when they actually did their jobs. Never mind the fact that he talked about having 3 degrees when he only had 1. Never mind the fact that he talked about how he was at the forefront of the civil rights movement when he was talking about, he knows what's best for the Negro, and he knows, he does, all kinds. He doesn't want his kids growing up in a racial jungle, and forget about all of that stuff, which should have disqualified him for the presidency in the first case. Let's just throw out this wonderful thing. His whole concept on the economy by himself. Oh yeah, I can't forget the plagiarism. over on Facebook. You're right. I can't forget the plagiarism that he was caught at. So forgetting about all of that stuff. I mean, let's just take all of that and set it aside. Okay. What we have over the course of the last 3 years is probably, well, actually not probably. It is the worst economic situation for the American people since probably the late 70s to into the 80s and the Reagan years, where Reagan was attempting to correct the problems that we had from previous administrations, namely the Carter administration. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of people who are touting the whole thing about Bidenomics are actually being shown. Oh yeah, I can't forget about the fact that he married Jill Biden, who was the family babysitter. But anyway, forget all of that. Forget all about Ashley's diary too, which was proven by the FBI to be actually real, even though, that kind of stuff. So anyway, forget about all of that crap. Let's just look at his performance as president. Well, because I've often made the argument that, like Trump, I'm not voting for the man. I'm voting for the policies. I'm voting for his, I'm voting for his choices as president to drive the country in the proper direction, et cetera, et cetera. So let's forget about all of the other stuff that might be going on in Joe Biden's garbage personal life. And let's just look at one simple thing, which is the economy. Now, one of the things that is very interesting about the economy is that you kind of have a divestiture of opinions. You have some people who think, oh, Bidenomics is great. Everything's going wonderful. And then you have the real people, the people who live in the real world and pay money for real things. We have things like the highest credit burden on record ever. We have the most number of people diving in their 401k. We have the savings that has been dropping like crazy. We have high inflation rates such that it's the highest that we have seen in over 40 years. Gas prices have hit the highest in the last 20 years. You have the housing market is drying up since the housing crash in like 2008 or something like that. We have all of that stuff going on. Well, apparently part of the problem or part of the issue that, you have with such a dichotomy of people saying that, Bidenomics is great versus Bidenomics is not great can kind of be summed up in Breitbart's article here, where they are talking about the CNBC's Sullivan. So that's Brian Sullivan, who is the host of CNBC's Last Call. On Monday, he stated that the recent polling data about President Biden's handling of the economy shows a tale of two different economies and a tale of the haves and the have-nots, where the haves like his policies more than the have-nots. And Sullivan said, quote, "There are some new insight into the presidential race and what is really a tale of two different economies, the young versus the old. According to the latest Gallup poll numbers, just 28% of 18 to 34-year-olds approve of the president's handling of the economy. For ages 35 to 54, it's actually worse. A dismal 26% say that the president is doing a good job. And again, really a tale of the haves and the have-nots. Among college graduates who probably have a secure job and maybe own a home and maybe own stocks or whatever, the approval rating is a bit higher at like 47%. But that number crashes to only 22% for high school grads. And even more shocking, nearly 1 in 4 Democrats do not like the White House's handling of the economy. Think about it, a stunning number for people who are loyal to their party. Among independent voters, 74%, 3 out 3 out of 4 polled disapprove of the way the president has handled the economy. So this is why we have such a divestiture of people who some are saying, oh yeah, the economy is great. But, you know, again, a lot of it depends upon your financial situation before you walked into this whole thing with the economy. Well, apparently Biden's job approval has actually eroded a little bit further amid the economic concerns, according to this poll. So this is a CNN poll where his approval rating is actually ticked down again. Now, keep in mind, he hasn't seen above 50% since August, when he did the absolute debacle of a pullout from Afghanistan. And then by August, I mean August over a year ago. But now his job approval rating has actually dropped even further. It's gone down to 37%. A signal that the president's favor is further eroding as he campaigns for another term in 2024. So he consistently comes out. Consistently comes out and talks about how Bidenomics is working and how all of these things like, oh, the GDP growth is so wonderful. That is a sticking point. The job numbers, job numbers are low and job percentage, unemployment, that's what it is. Unemployment is low. And the GDP numbers, those seem to be like the two most common, conversations with regards to how Bidenomics is really doing anything for us. Well, this article came out in Epoch Times, and I had to read through it, and I encourage you to do so. U.S. GDP statistics belie economic reality. Low quality economic growth is masking the looming debt crisis. It is a chimera that enables us to pretend that everything is fine. So this is a commentary piece, but one of the things that he talks about is the fact that, he's saying, why do so many Americans feel worse off in a growing economy? And the answer, of course, is the Americans' shrinking wallets, rapidly shrinking wallets, meaning their diminishing purchasing power as a result from inflation. Okay. He says, while it's true that the headline inflation, which is represented by the Consumer Price Index, moderated to 3.2% in October, meaning that it was down from 3.7% in each of August and September, prices in some important categories, especially housing and transportation, continue to increase at high single-digit rates, meaning 6.7% and 9.2% respectively. In October, more fundamentally, Americans have now endured 3 years of price inflations. Prices may have started to grow more slowly, but with a few exceptions, they have not gone down, and certainly not to 2020 or previous levels. So since 2020, Americans have lost nearly 20% of their purchasing power. This is what I was talking about 18% inflation across the 3 years that Biden's been in. Now they're saying that it's actually more like 20 to 21%, because what used to cost $1 back in 2020 now costs $1.21. And so we've had roughly 20% inflation. Prices in critical categories such as energy remain over 70% higher than just 3 years ago. Indeed, 2 decades of moderate inflation caused by the troubling of a monetary base has resulted in Americans losing 45% of the value of their dollars since the turn of the century. With this slow but steady bleeding out, it's no wonder that most Americans are feeling financially anemic. Another thing that he talks about, this commentator talks about, is that possible that they don't believe that they are better off because of the source of the GDP growth. Okay. Cutting through the rhetoric, Bidenomics is primarily fiscal stimulus. In other words, increased government spending on programs like the Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure bill, which literally had little to do with infrastructure, and the CHIPS Act, which I've debunked the CHIPS Act, several times on this program. Supporting the 5% GDP growth was a 7% increase in federal government spending and an 8.2% increase in national defense spending in the third quarter. Consumer spending, which is normally what we need to push our economy along, lagged at 3.6%. So in other words, what he's basically saying is that the GDP number that the leftists keep touting is all based on government spending. And that's where we get pushed, is that the entire GDP number, because again, for those of you that don't recall, I talked about this, GDP is actually a combination between government spending and consumer spending. Well, GDP growth is based off of all of this government spending that Biden has been doing, putting us further and further into debt and deficit. And the only way out of it is because the bonds, because remember, the bond market has stagnated as well. And so now you're looking at where are we going to get the money to backfill all of this debt that we are now carrying, the higher interest rates that we are now carrying, and everything else. This is just crazy. The total national debt nearing $34 trillion and annualized debt service cost and interest payments now at $1 trillion by itself. We are heading for a confrontation with market realities, he says, in this. So there's a huge supply-demand gap that's going to require higher for longer nominal rates at the level of 5% or more, which that's what he's talking about in terms of the interest rates. And so this in turn will accelerate the growth in interest costs for the federal government and the issuance of trillions of dollars in more debt to pay for it in the coming months. In other words, low-quality economic growth is masking the looming debt crisis. It's a chimera that enables us to pretend that everything is fine, which is exactly what Joe Biden is doing, and just at the moment when it clearly is not. The idea that we can grow our way out of trouble and out of debt while continuing to run trillion-dollar deficits is a fantasy. Stronger medicine is required. Well, one of those stronger medicine things that they're talking about is cutting government spending. Folks, we have to get a hold on the open checkbook that the Democrats keep pushing for this. And just to give you an idea, the U.S. national debt has just surpassed $100,000 per person. The U.S. Treasury confirmed in the middle of last month that in the first month of this fiscal year, the federal government deficit had $67 billion just in the first month. The first month of this fiscal year. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but I don't have $100,000 that I can just magically pull out of my rear end to go and, pay off this debt. Now, granted, that's per person, so that's not counting just the working people. That's like every individual in terms of the census data that's out there, clocking in at 336 million. So, and the U.S. Treasury Department estimates the national debt is nearly $34 trillion. So the national debt just exceeded $100,000 per U.S. citizen. I mean, this is freaking crazy. We have a disaster on our hands. Oh, and I've got some stuff here in just a minute, in just a few minutes, where I'm going to tell you a compounding or a contributing factor to all of this as well, that's going to be coming up on this. But anyway, let me just tell you about one other thing. You know, Christmas is coming up. Okay. Yeah, Christmas is coming up. And what better way to, yeah. Oh, sorry, before I get into this. Yes, I was not gifted with the money-giving butt crack. I wish I was. Money-giving butt crack. And no, money doesn't grow on trees either. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thanks for that laugh, Coco. I appreciate that. All right. Let me tell you about this wonderful thing, this wonderful document that I absolutely love, and most Americans that like me do as well. The Constitution of the United States. You can get this copy, this wonderful Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution, by going to constitution.whiskeymusings.online, constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Check this thing out. You have about 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather. Look at that. It has got the internal pages here are rip resistant as well as water resistant. They're just fabulous. You have this binding. Check out this binding. It goes all the way through the book. The manufacturer has a 100-year warranty against manufacturing defects and materials defects, where you could send this back to them and they will either fix it or replace it for free. Get one of these things and put them in the stockings of every person that you know. And check this out. They have, what I'm told, is thick rounded corners that won't snag on that stocking as you put it in. You can hand this out to your conservative friends. They will love it and carry it with them, hopefully. You can hand this out to your liberal friends, where you can have fun trying to see if they actually can destroy it. Because, like I said, the paper is tear-proof. It's not like, liberal leftists are really all that strong. You could just look at any one of them at any time. So again, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online to get this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution. Go there and get it for Christmas for the stocking stuffers. And I already have some for mine. Shh, don't tell anybody. But go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online and go and get your copy of the greatest document, the foundational document for the greatest country this planet has ever seen, the Constitution of the United States. Once again, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online and pick yours up today. And of course, you'll support the show in the process too. All right. So before I get to going too much farther, let's go ahead and get to, I keep forgetting which button it is. Let's go ahead and get to tonight's Pet of the Week. All right. And tonight's Pet of the Week is been submitted by Picaric over on Rumble. Now I have to find Pet of the Week. Give me just a second. Here we go. So let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about these wonderful little creatures. And yes, they are little. I actually had a version, one of the two versions of creatures that we have for tonight. When I was a kid, I loved having the hamsters. But this tonight we have some guinea pigs and some hamsters. Again, supporting I don't know what I was going with that. But guinea pigs and hamsters submitted by Picaric for, I believe, her maybe a relative, Jordan. Not quite sure which, but anyway. So let me tell you. So here is the first image. This is a guinea pig. And this is Ms. Guinea. Ms. Guinea. She's a guinea pig. She's about 8 months in age. Now, the funny thing about this is that, pet stores and things like that, sometimes they don't freaking know, number one, if the sex of these things. And second of all, they don't even know if they are pregnant or not, because the pet store told them that she was actually a he, and of course she was already pregnant when they picked her up. So she ended up giving birth to 2 babies. Unfortunately, one did not survive. But the one that did is this one right here. And this is the only surviving baby of Ms. Guinea. They don't know if it's a boy or a girl. And she is going to be a Christmas gift for somebody. I won't say who. But they're a Christmas gift for them. And this baby was born December 5th, 2023. No name yet. Probably holding off until the gift recipient can decide to name that. And yes, as Coco points out, the reason why the girl was pregnant is because boys can't get pregnant. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Coco's on fire tonight. So anyway, now all of these pets, meaning the guinea pigs and these next pets that are coming up, they all sleep in Jordan's bedroom. And the house, I don't know if you guys recall, it's a while ago, that Tiger or Tigger, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it Tigger or Tiger, was a previously featured pet of the week. And so we have the 2 guinea pigs, plus we have 4 hamsters. Oops, that's another picture. There we go. Here's a hamster. And this one is a Russian dwarf hamster, oddly named Lucy's son. And Lucy has also been previously pet of the week in a picture with him and his 3 sisters. So this is now focusing directly on Lucy's son. This Lucy's son was born January 2nd, 2023. So we're coming up on a year of Lucy's son, a birthday. Let me see if I can get that just a tiny bit bigger here. Let's see. Yeah, maybe. Okay. All right. And so, yeah, so that's Lucy's son. Now we have the next one, which this is also a Russian dwarf hamster. This one is named Batman. And he was at least 3 months old when they got him in February of 2023. So obviously a small menagerie of small pets. These are not mine. They are the Picaric family's pets, Mark, by the way. Mark is saying, these are your pets? No, they're not mine. I haven't had hamsters in ages. I mean, the last time that I had hamsters and was, yeah, I can't even remember. I can't even remember what age I was. I can tell you it was prior to 7 years old. But yeah, they are not mine. They are part of the Picaric family. Let's see. And this one, oh well, no, I'm bad. My bad. So this was actually Lucy's son. I got that wrong. So there was 2 pictures of Lucy's son. So this one and this one are Lucy's son. And this one is the other one named Batman. Of course, he's black for that, so that makes sense. Look at the size of Batman in comparison to the hand. So this is Batman. These are tiny. So, yeah. But anyway, my hamster, I don't even remember the hamster's name. My sister and I had him when we were kids. But my hamster actually got into a fight with a friend of ours hamster once. And, because, it was one of those things that, we kind of thought, being naive kids, we thought, hey, it'd be kind of great if the 2 hamsters could get together and be friends. And we brought the 2 of them together and they started fighting almost immediately. We had to reach in. I was brave enough to reach in between the 2 hamsters. And I got bit by my hamster when I went and pulled him off. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, hamsters and guinea pigs and stuff like that, they're small. I can't do them anymore. They just remind me too much of the other wild critters that we have out where I am. But anyway, so those are the wonderful Pet of the Week submissions for this week's Pet of the Week from the Picaric family. Thank you very much for sharing those with us. We do appreciate it. As always, this is one of the fan favorites of the show. If you want to have your pet featured for Pet of the Week on Wednesday, send it off to my email address, fans, F-A-N-S, fans at whiskeymusings.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at whiskeymusings.online. And that, of course, is a Pet of the Week feature. Every Wednesday, I do that. And you can also submit your questions for whiskey to fans at whiskeymusings.online as well. And that's my Saturday segment that I have, Saturday show segment. And I don't currently have any questions. So if you have a question for whiskey, go ahead and do that. Fans at whiskeymusings.online for that, for both Pet of the Week and the submission of questions for whiskey. That is fantastic. And again, thank you, Picaric family, for submitting your little pets along with the other ones that have already been featured. Okay. So one of the things that a lot of people don't seem to understand about inflation, and I know this might get a little bit, boring or whatever, but it's really important for you to understand this in order to truly understand what's going on with our economy today. So Argentina, as an example, Argentina has a problem with inflation. Their inflation rate is like 143%. Now, you kind of think about that and you go, wait a minute, how the hell did that happen? 143%? Well, the biggest reason as to why inflation exists is you have too much money chasing too few goods. Now, some people think too much money. They think, okay, that's just the money. That's just the money that you've just got so much money in the marketplace. But no, what that actually is referring to, believe it or not, is the government printing money. Okay, the government printing the money, and so this is an article that was posted in the American Institute for Economic Research, and it clearly discusses what happened in Argentina. So in Argentina in 1990, Argentina had 711 billion pesos. That's their currency, is the peso. By 2020, Argentina had roughly 2.5 trillion pesos in circulation. Okay? So they increased it. And you can see by this chart, if you're listening to me on the audio program, head on over to rumble.com, look up the Whiskey Musings broadcast, and check out this graph, because it is amazing as to how severe they started printing money right around 2016, 2020 and beyond. The slope is like almost completely vertical on this. Okay. And so it's a massive increase in the money supply, even over just 3 decades. And this is part of the reason why, or actually it is the reason why, Argentina has battled inflation for years. Okay. Now, it is obviously small potatoes in the case of what you're thinking. It's in small potatoes in terms of what they've been doing recently. And we're not quite at that point where we need to worry about this necessarily. I mean, we do need to worry about it, but what I mean is it's not as bad as Argentina, but this is exactly why Argentina has an inflation rate of roughly around 143%. Now, this is Economics 101. When you pick up any kind of an econ book on this, it will tell you that expanding the money supply faster than the economy can actually produce goods and services to be purchased, you're going to have inflation. And that's essentially what we are dealing with. And too many people, ignore the fact that inflation is first and foremost a monetary issue. In fact, Milton Friedman famously said that information is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. Okay. But the thing about it is that everybody seems to think that that's not the case, that inflation has nothing to do with how much money is being printed. Well, I've got a couple of things for you. So first of all, let's take a look at the current circulating currency in the U.S. economy as of the end of 2022. So if you look at this chart, you'll see starting, and I'm going to start it in, 2017. So 2017, we had 41.6 billion bills. In other words, notes, and they break it down. They break it down into ones, twos, fives, tens, 20s, 50s, hundreds, and larger. But we only had 41.6 billion notes, meaning each one of those dollar figures running around in our economy. In 2018, we expanded that by about 1.5 billion to 43.4 billion. Then in 2019, the Fed expanded that to 44.9, so roughly around 1.5 again. Slowly, just a very gradual increase in terms of numbers, gradual increase in the actual amount of printed money that is out there. Okay. Now, going from 2019 to 2020, we made a huge, by comparison, jump. We were only looking at 1.5 billion that were added from 2019, which ended at 44.9 billion. We jumped into 50.3 billion. So that was roughly 5 billion increase of actual printed bills, notes that were running out there. Now that didn't slow down though. So that was just a start. That was, again, roughly 5 billion, give or take 5.2, I think, just doing quick math. Then we go from 2020 into 2021. We also increased by another roughly 2.9, almost 3 billion notes. Then we start slowing down a little bit from 2021 to 2022, and we end up from 53.2 into 54.1. Now, this is how we can determine the comparison of this, okay? Again, keep in mind, the premise is too many bills going in, okay? Too many bills running around chasing too few goods. So when we look at our current U.S. inflation rates, and if you look at this chart here, let me see if I can actually bring it up so you guys can read it here. Oops, too far. Okay, so looking at this chart that's here, what year did we all of a sudden have a massive jump in inflation? So keep in mind, if they printed the money in 2020, it actually wouldn't necessarily hit circulation until 2021, at least fully in circulation until 2021. So what the heck happened here? Well, if you look at 2019, the inflation rate was 2.3. Then they only printed a small amount of bills because, as I said, they slowed it down a little bit. And so the inflation rate dropped to 1.4. And now all of a sudden, it went from 1.4 in 2020 to 7% in 2021. Now, if you recall, from 2019 to 2020, they printed 5 billion additional bills. And then from 2020 to 2021, they added to that, rather than waiting for the money supply to dry up a little bit, they added to that an additional 3 billion bills. Why? Because the government had to try and kickstart the economy by flooding the market with the bills, by flooding the market with the money. This is why our inflation has been such a pain in the butt. And realistically, what we have to do is we have to allow that money supply to dry up. So they should stop printing money. Stop spending money on government programs. Allow the consumer economy to catch up with all of this. Because from 2021, we had 7%. 2022 was 6.5%. 2023 looks like it's going to be 3.2 roughly overall. We need to get into the negative numbers to start bringing prices back down into a more lucrative position in terms of this. So we cannot do what Argentina did, which is all of a sudden start printing a crap ton of money. Okay. We need to cut back on the printing, cut back on the spending, and start bringing down the economy. We may even have to raise interest rates even just a little bit higher in order to try and fight some of this stuff to bring this down. Again, this is a big problem, and this is something that the government and Joe Biden's policies, honestly, have been fueling this kind of thing for quite some time. Now, I have one last debunking narrative that I want to throw out here before I end tonight. So we all know that climate is a huge thing. I mean, John Kerry flew, and a whole bunch of other people flew over to Dubai, and while they were sitting in Munich, Germany, they ended up in an ice storm, got all their jets frozen to the frickin' tarmac. I'm sure everybody saw all of those photos, even ones where the back end of the plane was so heavily weighted that it actually tipped the plane up. And they were laughing. You know, I mean, if you didn't laugh at that, I mean, just the I don't want to call it the irony, but the ludicrousness of that entire freaking episode is just amazing to me. But of course, you know, John Kerry, Lurch himself, going and talking about, you know, getting rid of coal and all of these other things because, you know, we're in this global warming effect. And then, of course, we heard throughout all of last summer how last summer was the highest and hottest summer on record. And, you know, if that isn't proof that we have global warming or climate change in effect, all of this stuff, you know, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, yeah, I have something for you right here, right now, that's going to just blow your freaking mind. Okay. I caught this. I'm not exactly sure where, but I caught this article, and it was kind of interesting to read. And this came out on July 14th of 2023, so not too long ago. But apparently, the EPA has these stations that are recording information throughout the United States on all of this. And they kind of defeat the whole narrative that we're actually warming up. So, according to reports by the EPA, only 19% of all the weather stations in the U.S. reported an increase in the number of hot days not since 2021, not since 2020, not since 2000, but all the way back to 1948. So these weather stations, they started recording data in 1948, and only 19% of all of them reporting from 1948 up until now has actually reported an increase in the number of hot days. So here, again, if you're listening audio, you can head on over to Rumble. This is at the very end of the show. You can check out this map. But here's an important chart that somehow slipped by the EPA's consensus censorship squad. It's a map of over 1,000 weather stations across the U.S. The change in the number of hot days for that station are shown in increasing, meaning red, stayed the same, blank, or ironically decreasing in blue. Now, if you look at this map, honestly, you take a look at this map over my shoulder, there is very few, and it's not even across the entire U.S. In fact, a major section of the central U.S. around the Mississippi River Valley is showing that they actually have decreased in the number of hot days. And, you know, it's mostly the Southwest has increased some hot days, and even the Northwest has actually increased a little bit in terms of hot days, but it's mostly the West that's changing. It's not the entire country that's doing it. Now, this, again, a total of, in here, they also talked about a total of 863 stations, or 81%, reported either a decrease or no change in the number of hot days since 1948. So, yeah. I mean, come on. Seriously? Getting a little tired of the narratives that are running around that, you know, men can get pregnant. We're, you know, contributing to climate change, and we can do something if we just add a whole bunch of taxes to our bill. That we all of a sudden changing over to electric vehicles is gonna take care of all of our problems, when we can't even keep, you know, California in particular can't even keep their electric grid going when they're like one of the most green states in the country. These people are just absolutely horrible. One last story really quick. I just got to throw this out because this just showed up today. Apparently there's a judge in Georgia that has issued a decision on the Georgia voting machines. So you know how they kept talking about how the 2020 election was the most secure and the most fair and everything else? Judge Amy Tottenberg has issued a decision concurring that there is sufficient reason to believe that the electronic voting machines used by the state of Georgia have substantial flaws. Now, the thing about this is this trial, this is going to be a bench trial. And this bench trial is going to be starting right after the first year in January 9th of 2024. Now, it's not going to have a jury. That's what the bench trial is all about. But she did acknowledge that a compromise might be made possible if the state legislature were to take an action against it. Now, she does say the court cannot wave a magic wand in this case to address the varied challenges to our democracy and election system in recent years, including those presented in this case. But reasonable, timely discussion and compromise in this case, coupled with prompt, informal legislative action, might certainly make a difference that benefits the parties and the public. Now, she in particular called out the DREs, which were the earlier voting system that they had prior to the introduction of the Dominion voting systems after it. But apparently the court notes that several voting machines were still running an outdated Windows XP 2000 operating system. And the DRE machines were running on software from 2005 that is so out of date that the maker of the softwares were no longer supporting it or providing any security patches. Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting thing with regards to the new or the voting machines. She is actually taking a look at the data, which is all we ever really asked for, honestly. But they she actually is saying, hey, there's something wrong here and we need further investigation. Again, the narratives, Democrat, leftist narratives, all debunked. And that is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor. If you enjoy the program, head on over to Rumble and sign up for an account. It's free. And once you sign up, go to the Whiskey Musings Broadcast. You can just search it up, Whiskey Musings Broadcast channel, and hit that green follow button. It helps a lot. It also helps a lot if you give me thumbs up on these videos. Rumble takes notes. Takes notice of those. I want to grow this channel. I want to grow my my following, and I appreciate all of you for doing so. Come back on Saturday and check out Saturday the 9th. I'm haven't 100% confirmed it, but I believe that Captain Unicorn is going to be back for our special Christmas gift giving guide. And so come back on Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for that. And I do appreciate, like I said, I appreciate all your guys' support. Have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you Saturday night right here on the Whiskey Musings Broadcast. Good night, everybody.
The Whiskey Musings Broadcast is produced by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.